Hey guys, week 2 video here. I just wanted to say good job. We lost another 35 pounds, and on average, everyone is right on track for that 1% of body weight loss per week. So things are going real well. I wanted to go over what exactly metabolism is today, and hopefully give you guys a better understanding of why we're doing what we're doing and how this whole thing is actually supposed to work. I've heard most of you guys say it, and you guys have heard other people say it, but, people say, oh, I just have a slow metabolism, or if you don't eat enough, then your metabolism slows down. Um, and while those things are technically true, they don't matter as much as you might think. And we're going to go over why here in a second. So usually, we use the term metabolism for sort of a catch-all. It's everything we do, but in reality, there's a few different parts to your metabolism, to how many calories you burn during the day, and subsequently how many calories you can eat and still lose weight. So we're going to talk about the four big categories, and really they're the four major, or you can even consider them the only categories for things that make up your metabolic rate. And the first one is usually what we mean, or what we're talking about when we say, oh, I have a slow metabolism. And that's your basal metabolic rate. It's basically just how many calories you burn being alive, right? So everything your body would normally do, breathe, digestion, whatever, right, to stay alive is your basal metabolic rate. It can make up as much as 70% of the calories you burn during the day. It makes up the vast majority of the calories you burn, and is subsequently a major component of metabolism, right? It's also the part of your metabolism that is the least adjustable or adaptable. So losing weight does slightly reduce this rate. Building muscle does raise it slightly. And everybody's rate is slightly different. But when it comes to individual differences, it's usually only 1 to 200 calories, less than a Snickers bar. It's not all that much in the grand scheme of things. And when we take care of these other three parts that we're going to talk about in a second, it's not even the majority of the calories burned. While it's the biggest single chunk, it likely won't even make up the majority. For us in the nutrition challenge, it's probably going to only be about 45 to 50% of the calories we burn during the day, because we're going to try and emphasize the next few things. So the next biggest one is NEAT. It's NEAT. And so that stands for, it's an acronym, it stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. It's a fancy word that just stands for all the moving around you do that is not training, right? It's not training specifically for something. So walking, fidgeting, playing with your kids or your dog, water skiing, hiking, whatever, right? It's activity that is not specifically training for something. Right, and so that can make up as much as 30% of your daily expenditure. And maximizing this category, this is the big category that we have control over, that will sort of increase our chances for success. What's more is NEAT is actually really closely tied to how much food you're eating. And what I mean by that is your body will naturally increase NEAT. You'll fidget more, you'll want to move more, you'll shift around more at work when you're eating more food. And this is a good thing, right? And it's one of the reasons we start off with so much food. I know a lot of you guys have sort of commented on just how much food you have to eat, and this is one of the reasons we do that, right? We start off eating a lot of food, right, and trying to get as much food as possible while still losing weight, so that we can sort of naturally maintain this level, this basic level of activity. And subsequently, it'll also lower as we reduce calories. Now, that's something we want to pay attention to, because it can sort of make it harder to lose weight as we keep going. So if you've ever heard someone say, oh, I'm just not eating enough, that might be true, but it's true in a different way than maybe they're thinking, right? And so what we want to do is we want to pick some sort of objective measurement that will keep us on track. The old rule of 10,000 calories a day, or 10,000 calories a day, 10,000 steps a day. How about that? Will be a good sort of benchmark. So whether you use a Fitbit or whatever to track that, that's a really good benchmark to make sure that you're sort of maintaining a base level of activity, right? Okay. And so as you guys keep going, you want to really try and focus on this. You can only train hard so much. You know, we do 6, we're going to talk about that in a second. We do as many as 6 workouts in a week, right? But any more than that, and you really start to beat yourself down. This type of activity, though, is usually low impact, right? Playing fetch with your dog or going on a walk with your kids or whatever it is, right, isn't really going to tire you out a ton. It's not going to really take a lot of recovery to get better from that, but it does increase how many calories you burn during the day, sometimes very significantly. So number 2, eat. If NEAT was non-exercise activity thermogenesis, then EAT is exercise activity thermogenesis. And it's training, it's your workouts, it's the things you do specifically to get better at whatever it is, right? So if you're training for a sport, or if you're doing CrossFit, or whatever, right? It's those types of things, right? Now, while anything is better than nothing here, the CrossFit type workouts, the high intensity interval training carries the biggest bang for the buck. That's why we do it, right? And we do, in the nutrition challenge, up to 6 of these per week. Now, some of you guys do more, and that's great, right? But most people I tell to aim for 6 sessions a week. Now, these aren't necessarily always an hour-long session, right? But they are getting in, and they're doing some sort of specific training 6 times a week, right? However, your basal metabolic rate and your NEAT, your non-exercise activity, is going to make up the vast majority of the calories you burn. Where NEAT can be up to 30%, exercise really is anywhere from 0% of your calories burned if you're not doing any specific exercise, all the way up to maybe 15%. So while it does matter, it doesn't matter nearly as much when it comes to total calories burned. Instead, the biggest effect is going to be maintaining muscle mass, which will make sure that our basal metabolic rate doesn't drop too much as we're losing weight. And it's going to really affect the way we look once we lose weight. And those are the 2 main things that we're looking for when it comes to exercise. So while it's important and it matters a ton and you need to do it, focusing on NEAT, on that non-exercise activity, is going to mean a whole lot more when it comes to pure calories burned, which is going to matter most when it comes to weight going down on the scale. All right. And there's one more thing, and that's the thermic effect of food. And all that really means is it takes energy to process the food we're eating, right? And so different types of food require different amounts of energy, right? So things like protein and vegetables take a lot more energy to process than simple carbohydrates, which is why you guys eat so much protein and vegetables, right? And so the composition of the food that we prescribe to you actually matters a bunch. And this thermic effect of food can be anywhere from 10 to 15% of your total calories burned as well. So what does it all mean? It means that we've taken care of sort of all these things in the rules of the challenge, right? So if you get 100% of your points each week, you're going to be taking care of, most of this stuff. All you really need to focus on in addition to that is moving around more, tapping a pencil while you're at work, shifting around, standing up, going on a few more walks to the water cooler, whatever it is. I personally like wearing a Fitbit and trying to hit 10,000 steps in a day. I'm trying to do that every single day, even on your non-training days, every single day throughout the whole course of the challenge to make sure that we keep that going. Because that's the one really effective area that we have complete control over. You're going to eat the right food, we're going to put you in a caloric deficit. But if we don't focus on moving around and staying active, then our it's going to be harder to create that big deficit that we need to keep losing weight. You're going to have to keep cutting calories to do it, and that can get really, really hard, really, really fast. So as we do, and some of you guys had to do this, some of you guys had to reduce calories this week. As you guys do that, each one of these components, all four of them, tend to drop. So your basal metabolic rate drops as you lose weight. As you lose fat, your metabolic rate goes down, and as you lose muscle, your metabolic rate goes down. Right? As you eat less food, you tend to move around a little bit more, so your NEAT goes down. You tend to not be able to work out as hard, so your exercise activity thermogenesis goes down. And you're eating less food, so you're burning less energy to process that food. As you reduce calories, your metabolic rate does go down. The single best way to get that to not happen, to keep burning a bunch of calories, is to keep doing your workouts and focus on NEAT. Focus on staying active throughout the day. If you guys do that, chances are you'll experience a lot more success, especially as we get into weeks 3, 4, 5, and especially later on in weeks like 7, 8, 10. It's going to get, and your calories start to go down. That is going to matter a whole lot more. Hopefully you learned something there. Hopefully it helps you out as we keep going. And good job, everyone.